make the foundation of this society. A man who never would air what really needs to be a two-part story as a single episode. Overdue Doctor Who review, and we are now up to The Doctor's Daughter. And this review is brought to you by Radio vs. the Martians. It's a podcast, which means costs you nothing to check out and give a listen to. Hosted by Mike Gillis and Casey Dorn as they discuss all manner of geeky material. They like to call themselves the McLaughlin Group for Nerds. And yeah, that's pretty accurate because they will talk about whatever's on their mind. It might be Star Trek. It might be Batman. It might be Game of Thrones. It might be Star Wars. Maybe they'll have a guest. And sometimes they take a look at an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. The good and the bad, but they're always entertaining. Sometimes even a little insightful. Check them out. RadioVersusTheMartians.com or anywhere you get your podcasts. So, The Doctor's Daughter. Man, I have never liked this episode, and the reason I don't like it is exactly what I said in the intro. If this was going to work, and here's what breaks my heart. This could have worked. Most of it could have worked if it was a two-parter. But doing this as one episode, none of the stuff that could have worked, if it had breathing room, does. Like, none of it, almost nothing here works. It's not a disaster. It's not an embarrassment. It's not Love and Monsters. It's not Fear Her. But it's not good. So, okay, where do we begin? All right, well, let's start with the titular Doctor's Daughter. Let's start with Jenny. So, Jenny as a character, first of all, like, personal weird nitpicky thing that has nothing to do with anything, but don't you love it how a clone just barely created and generated to fight has eyeliner and mascara? Right. Anyways, so the whole thing with Jenny being derived from the Doctor's, there is a lot of potential there for her to sort of instill that, first tap into that sense of loss that he has about the Time Lords, and to reawaken that paternal instinct that he's been trying to kind of keep dormant because he's felt the pain of loss from that before. And in terms of her inherent nature as a fighter and him pushing her away from that, there's tons to work with there. And the episode does in fact try to work with it, but because it has to share space with this war between the humans and the Hath, and Martha having her own story completely self-contained within the Hath stuff, the amount of time needed for all this stuff regarding Jenny to develop properly and feel organic and feel natural, as opposed to a list of bullet points of like, these would be good ideas. Yes, they were good ideas, but this is going to be a word comparison. It's like the finale of Game of Thrones. They had a list of good ideas, but they didn't properly do the build-up to get those ideas to pay off. I'm referring to Game of Thrones last season in this case. But I feel like it's that same kind of thing. They've got a list of themes and elements to explore with Jenny, all of which are good, but because they're cramming it into one episode and it has to share story space with all this other stuff, rather than being a deep character dive into just her and the Doctor, none of it lands properly. Even though it's technically doing the right thing and exploring the right themes, it's not doing it with any depth. It's not taking the time for any of it to really work. And that follows all the way straight through to her death. Not enough time was spent for me to form a strong enough bond with her to care when she died. And then came back, and I didn't care then either. And I keep running into people who have a lot of affection for Jenny. And I know they must exist. She's got her own Big Finish series now. I haven't checked it out yet. Maybe it's good. I don't know. I'm not saying the character's inherently bad. I'm saying the way in which the character is utilized doesn't work. So we've also got Martha back for no reason other than we're going to have Martha back. And again, I like Martha, but it at this point, it's like she never left. We're just coming off a two-part, like, and I said this last time, 4 stories. That's how long she was gone, and now she's back for her 3rd episode in a row, getting her own devoted story, which doesn't really add anything. Like, literally all it does is give her something to do, but there's no reason for her to be there in the first place. And like, they do that, and this is another thing that doesn't work because not enough time was spent just dwelling with these elements. So she kind of, I guess, forms this bond with this Hath that she helps, and then ultimately that Hath dies, saving her, but that doesn't land properly either because, well, first of all, the Hath are all interchangeable. There's no personality in these things. I really don't like the design of this, especially for how much they appear to communicate with the... It's like, how rigid that mask is. The eyes barely move. There's no mouth to speak of, obviously. It's just bubbles. That's all we have to go off of. And it's not that it would be a decent design for a background alien. But like for the main one you're going to spend a lot of time with and try and get us emotionally invested in one of them, no, sorry, this design does not work. But they have this Hath die on the surface, saving Martha, and that doesn't land, first of all, because as I said, the Hath, it's hard to instill a lot of emotion or personality into them, then they really weren't able to do it. But that bond between them, if I was ever going to buy it, it just needed more raw time. This entire story needs a whole 2nd episode devoted to it, to have this stuff breathe. Or, failing that, take Martha out of the story, remove that entire element, and maybe that would have been enough time left over for the Jenny stuff to breathe the way it needs to so that it works and that it lands. But as it stands, it just does not. And the other thing with the Hath dying is, like, Martha has her whole no on the surface, but then once she's back with the doctor, not a mention of this thing. Like, she's back in and she's like all dirty and stuff. What happened to you? Oh, I took the surface route. Not, and I lost a friend. Like, just, I took the surface route. He died. You seemed to care 5 minutes ago. You don't really say, fine, whatever. The twist, that works. I like that twist, that sort of play off of generations as a measure of time, because generations is relative. And if you're burning through generations of soldiers that you can just clone off, yeah, you're going to go through a lot of generations in a very short amount of time. So I like that. That works very well. That's one of the few things that did not require more time in order to work, because that's just a twist, and as long as you set up the clues and the little things, which they did, and it didn't require a ton, that twist lands and that works. But, and like, God, the whole... This is just cliche, so this just bothers me. And this is some of the other stuff that didn't work with Jenny, is that rather than taking the time to explore the themes deeper, they're doing stuff like she kind of seduces a guard. Like that tired thing. It's this is not even like you're diminishing her by having her rely on her sexuality. Like, I don't care. It's just so tired and tropey. And then the friggin' laser beam grid thing, and she does the flips through it. Like, oh, come on. Like, I cannot remember the last time I was expected to take that seriously. Like, every time I've seen that for almost the past 20 years, it was always as a joke. So to see this episode do that seriously, come on. So there's little things like that just dampen it all the more. I do honestly think this could have been a good story, though. It really could have. Giving the Doctor this sort of mayfly connection to his past, to the things that he's lost, that he is initially reluctant to connect with, because first of all, because of not wanting to relive his damage, but also because of her nature as a soldier and him trying so desperately not to ever be that again. There's so much you could do with that. They just don't take the time to do a proper dive into the themes of the thing. Also, the whole I never would thing. Like, it's fine as far as the doctor moment goes, but it just rubs me the wrong way that he ends it with, make the foundation of your new society a man who never would. In other words, build your society on me. Like, I know the doctor's arrogant, but wow. Ugh. Yeah, that didn't... I don't love that either. But, like, that's minor as far as the sins of this episode go. This, like, I've had some nitpicky things to say about Partners in Crime or Planet of the Ood, but, like, this is the first episode that I think just does not work as far as Series 4 goes. This is the first one I consider a genuinely skippable episode, which is a shame. Because, I mean, if it was a better episode, it'd be like, oh, let's watch the episode where David Tennant met his wife, before they got married. Let's see them together on screen. I would like to enjoy that. I can't, because it's not good. Doesn't work. Needed 2 episodes. But they didn't do it. Ah, well. The Doctor's Daughter. You seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Buttons, links, like button. Apparently it's important now. Also, maybe subscribe. Consider supporting me on Patreon. It helps fund things like improved gear that this camera's new this year. And things like that. So other links, socials, merch, it's all down there. Click on it. Any link you like. It'll take you someplace. You also don't have to. If you really don't want to, because at the end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings. So until next time, this council is adjourned.